news and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. Yes, welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. I am your host, Harry Wilkinson, and I hope you are having a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Here in the D.C. area, it's some lovely spring-like weather, a little cooler than some people like. Maybe putting a bit of a damper on beach plans and the opening of pools and such, but I kind of like it. It's a nice way to ease into the summers. You know, summers in this particular area where I live tend to be quite humid and quite hot, especially in recent years. And so the time in which we get to enjoy spring-like weather sometimes isn't very long, maybe a month or two before we get into the swamp, as it were, of heat and humidity and all of that kind of thing. So I hope wherever you are enjoying your Memorial Day in the United States here, and as I often do on Memorial Day, like to talk about what it is we are memorializing. Because in the excitement of, Memorial Day sort of being the kickoff to summer and pools opening and people heading out to the beach for a long weekend, one does tend to forget that this is a rather somber holiday. It's a remembrance holiday, a remembrance of people who have lost their lives, specifically people who have lost their lives in combat or in fighting for their country or for their ideals. And I like to broaden it out to look at memorializing people who have lost their lives for any particular movement forward in our world, and there have been many. I would start by saying that each soldier who lost their lives in any particular war, in any particular military action, each soldier and each civilian who lost their lives has moved us forward, even although it may be infinitesimally small. Each of those people who gave up their physical aspects, their physical bodies, have moved our consciousness, has moved the world towards greater and greater peace. That, to me, is what we are memorializing on Memorial Day. Bravery, of course, valor, of course, all of those things. But importantly, it must be remembered that we are moving, perhaps inexorably slow, but we are moving towards greater and greater peace and prosperity in the world. Think of it. Some 70 or so years ago, the entire world was at war. Major countries either banding together to fight others or often fighting amongst themselves. And here we are, a mere 70 years later, after World War II, and that situation does not exist anymore. Think of it, there are no major developed countries at war with each other. European countries have not been at war with each other for 70 years. We have not been at war with them. We've never gone to war with Russia, even though we had what was known as the Cold War, which wasn't really a war at all, but more of a competition to see whose philosophy on life was better. But think of that. The world is more at peace than it has ever been before, and it is thanks to everyone, military and civilian, who lost their lives. Now, you wouldn't know that the world was more at peace than it ever was from the media, because what we hear about, of course, are the problems, the awful things that are happening in places like Syria and Afghanistan, and the awful things we've been through in Iraq. And this is not to minimize at all the difficulties, the suffering, and the loss of lives in those situations. I do not mean to do that. However, it's good to get perspective on this and to realize that we are a world more at peace than we have ever been before. And we continue to move in that direction with each loss of life, with each of these situations. We move, as I say, perhaps inexorably slowly, towards a world of greater peace. And we also move towards a world of greater prosperity as we discover where and how people are suffering in the world, and then come up with ways to try to alleviate that suffering. We begin to create more and more prosperity in the world as well. Peace does lend itself to prosperity, so we see countries, major countries like India and China, but even smaller countries in Africa and throughout the world, who are increasing in their prosperity. They are able to live better. Their people are able to survive longer. We're able to cut down on starvation and illness and disease, and we continue to move in that direction. And I say everybody, every spirit who sacrificed their physical being, their material being, did so to move us that much forward. That, to me, is the spirituality behind Memorial Day. Now, you may disagree that we're moving towards peace. That's understandable. However, if you look without judgment, if you just take a step back and look at where we are today, as I just pointed out, if you look at where we are today as opposed to where we were 70 years ago after World War II, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, we see this slow movement. And in fact, it's not so slow, because we've had more movement in that direction in the 20th century than we had for centuries before that. Let's look at the fact that there is no draft in this country anymore, and there hasn't been since the mid-1970s. Before that, every eligible young man, was sent off to join the military, was sent off with the idea that they would have to go and fight in some war or other. We don't do that anymore. That's a remarkable thing. Now, some people believe perhaps we should, and that would discourage us from taking military action needlessly, because everybody's son or daughter would be potentially involved and could potentially lose their lives. And I understand that philosophy too. I understand that the volunteer army that we have now quite often is a place where young men and women who don't have a lot of economic options or academic options tend to go. Whereas young men and women who perhaps are financially better off, or whose parents and families are wealthier, do not have to sacrifice in that way, do not have to give service. And I understand the meaning behind that too, but I think in the long run, having the choice, having the volunteer army, is a greater step towards peace than having the not having the option of having to be forced into military service, whether or not you like it. So these are all things that move us towards the direction of peace. It's truly remarkable, and I think that's something to be proud of, to be aware of, to give thanks for, and to bless the spirits that helped us move forward on this Memorial Day. Moving towards peace. President Obama gave a very interesting and in some circles controversial speech in which he talks about the drone program that he has done so much to increase during his presidency. And he talked about how he felt that using drones was a more effective way to deal with our enemies than sending in soldiers and troops, or sending out planes for such a program, especially when it's and so he began to outline a movement towards having more accountability for this drone program, taking it out of the secrecy, out of the shadows in which it exists now, because it is a CIA program, and the CIA exists in absolute secrecy. They're accountable to no one. They don't have to disclose their budget. They don't have to disclose anything. That's what the CIA is. And he's taking the drone program from the CIA, which there is much more, which there is and can be government oversight on the use of such drones. And the concerns are that drones that are sent out under secrecy cause tension amongst those people, particularly when these drones tend to be in the Middle East. It creates a culture of fear in which people may be tempted to villainize the United States and join in with those who already vilify us. And as they see these drones coming out of nowhere and taking out perhaps whole villages and people who are innocent, there can build a resentment towards the United States. Another concern is that this is in a way condoning assassination of particularly American citizens abroad that we have judged to be dangers or judged to be a terrorist sympathizer, supporter, involved with terrorist activity. Does that sometimes. And I think to be honest about that, to reveal that, to think about that, is the way we move forward towards not doing that anymore. So, it's on the table. It's being talked about. And that means we move forward. So that's a very interesting headline in the news. Some people feel it's not enough. That Obama needs to eliminate drones entirely, and perhaps we are moving, as I said, towards that direction. We are certainly moving, as I've continued to say, towards greater peace in the world. All right, so now we've been talking, last week I started talking about stress and the ways to deal with stress. And so I'd like to continue with that, because quite often I get so into the many other things going on in the world that I don't get to talk about these healthful tips, which are what the Spirit and Wellness Show is also about. So I want to talk about stress. And last week I mentioned that stress can create all kinds of illnesses, including anxiety, sleep disorders, hypertension. It can affect your cardiac functions, immune suppression. You get sick easier when you're stressed. So stress management is a very important tool that we need to use. And one way of managing stress is through something called biofeedback. So what is biofeedback and how does it work? Well, biofeedback is one of these amazing things that is a combination of using what, for a better term, would be metaphysical or spiritual approaches, and combining it with the tools that we have available via science. So what happens is you become more aware of the functions of your body that are controlled involuntarily. You start to see the patterns that cause certain things, and that helps you to gain more control of your blood pressure, control of your heart rate and your skin temperature. And biofeedback therapy is a way that more and more is being used to help treat things like stress and stress-related issues like high blood pressure, migraine headaches, and things like that. They promote relaxation. And relaxation is how you relieve the conditions that are related to stress. So, what happens is they attach you to machines through electrodes. And these electrodes monitor your heart and breathing rates, your blood pressure, your skin temperature, your muscle activity, and it shows when you're under stress. And it gives you that feedback. So immediately you see, wow, that is really stressing me out. And biofeedback therapists help you with relaxation exercises that you can use once you start to become aware of your patterns and when you start to feel the stress. One of the big therapy tools that you have is breathing. Right? Breathing. Such a powerful tool, costs absolutely nothing. But many people just don't know how to do it. So if we have time, as I've done before on this program, I'll give you a breathing exercise you can use. Another tool in the biofeedback therapist's toolbox is progressive muscle relaxation. And the way you do that is simply by tightening and then relaxing the different muscle groups, maybe in your hands, your feet, shoulders. Tighten your shoulders and relax them. And once your muscles begin to relax, you begin to feel the rest of your body follow along. Guided imagery is another tool, a fantastic tool. Now, guided imagery can be complex, in which you are guided by, and there are audio tracks and such in which you are guided through a scenario or a image that makes you more relaxed. But you don't have to do that. You can simply concentrate on an image or a color or a place like a beach that you love, and focus on that and project yourself into that. And by doing so, your mind relaxes you, because your mind, as far as your mind is concerned, you're there. Your mind doesn't know that you're creating this imagery. Your mind, and therefore your body, responds as if you're actually there. Another tool is mindfulness meditation. We've talked about that a lot on the show. We'll get back to talking about it. Mindfulness meditation is allowing thoughts to come up without blocking them, and then letting them go. Accepting them, letting them go. Mindfulness meditation is a powerful tool. They've been doing a lot of research about that at UCLA, and many celebrities have gone on board with it. People like Willie Shatner and such are, endorsing the use of this mindfulness meditation, and they have many activities and approaches that you can use to engage yourself in this mindfulness meditation. And what these things do is they help you to slow your heart rate, lower your blood pressure, ease muscle tension. And the machines used in biofeedback help you know how effective you're being, help you know when your body is doing these things. And some of the things they use are like the EMG, the electromyogram. It measures muscle activity and tension. The thermal measures skin temperature. The neurofeedback or electroencephalography, the EEG, that measures your brain waves. Electrodermal activity is measured for sweating and anxiety. HRA is heart rate variability, and this measures the heart rate. So biofeedback therapy sessions give you this information and help you to learn how to control those things. Great tool, is it not? So we'll talk about a actual breathing meditation that you can use to help you when you're stressed. Get to that in a moment, hopefully. But first I want to talk about another issue in the news. This is May 23rd, which was Thursday, and it has to do with the Pope's remarks, which he actually made on Wednesday, May 22nd. And basically, and this has become a major step forward And this is why I believe that this Pope Francis is taking the Catholic Church beyond the realm of religion and starting to bring them back into the realm of spirituality. And we've talked about the difference between religion and spirituality and how the two are often at odds with one another. And the reason I say this is because of his remarks on the Wednesday. He says that performing good works is not the exclusive domain of people of faith, but rather a place where they and atheists can and should meet. In a private homily, Francis described doing good not as a matter of faith, but of duty. It is an identity card that our Father has given to all of us because he has made us in his image and likeness. And then referring to non-Catholics and non-believers, he said, if we do good to others, if we meet their doing good, and we go slowly, gently, little by little, we will make that culture of encounter. We need that so much. We must meet one another doing good. This is, I'm going to repeat that, because I want you to understand it spiritually, what he's saying. If we do good to others, if we meet there doing good, and we go slowly, gently, little by little, we will make that culture of encounter. We need that so much. We must meet one another doing good. And what he's talking about is oneness. He's talking about recognizing our unity, our oneness. And many atheists are happy about this. Good for them. And it certainly is just to have him acknowledge the idea that religion does not necessarily equate to morality. And others, some of the faithful, maybe have a little problem with this. Because when you've been taught that your way is the only way, and those that don't follow your way are doomed and evil, perhaps, having the Pope say this may be a little bit difficult, but so far, certainly a lot of the responses to this have been fantastic. Some of the people who are doing such great work with these disasters that we've dealt with, such as the tornado that hit Oklahoma, are as spiritual as it gets, right? And there's some quotes here that I'm reading, and this comes from an article in the Washington Post on this. And some of the quotes are very interesting to hear. A gentleman by the name of Greg Epstein, Harvard University's humanist chaplain. Very interesting. I didn't know they had one. But he says, you have this small example of this soft-spoken young mother who is recovering from the tornado, who by her presence, her quiet dignity, not only exemplified what the Pope was saying, but overshadowed him. The quiet dignity of her just being a person, and so clearly a good and loving person. It makes my reaction, and I would think a lot of people's reaction to Francis's remarks, well, of course. But how easily we disengage from that sort of understanding of each other and ourselves. And that's spirituality. It doesn't take much to recognize that. Right? It doesn't take... Okay, so let me go to this breathing exercise. So, here we go. For now, as I have to wrap this, with your breathing exercises, you sit in a comfortable position, back straight, and begin to focus your attention on your breathing. Just follow how your breathing works. In and out.